My girlfriend and I used to go on these camping trips around the state of Florida, partly out of a mutual love of nature, but mostly because we longed for a kind of domestic intimacy that couldn't be found while living alone with our parents. Replacing a kitchen with a useless camp stove and a starter home with a leaky, mildewed tent, we hope to one day resemble an old married couple with an empty nest and time to kill, blissfully spending the better years of our marriage bird watching, completing puzzles, and looking for seashells. Somehow, working for a living didn't figure into this fantasy. Owing to Florida's overdeveloped nature, many of our destinations were suburban. One park had to be accessed through a neighborhood, and others would seem completely isolated until our hiking trail took us within earshot of an interstate. Our nature walks all played out the same. I would choose a short and shady nature trail to leisurely wander, and about a mile into our walk, I'd look up from a butterfly or wildflower to find my girlfriend drenched in sweat and panting like a beast in the beating sun. I assured her that I knew exactly where we were, and that the parking lot was just around the corner. It surely was around the corner, too. I just didn't know how to get there. If I played my cards right, she'd know that we were never lost in the first place. The wilderness was a little intimidating to Jennifer, but I knew what I was doing. Once I took her on her first camping trip and wooed her with a serene paddle through the salt marshes of Little Talbot Island, she trusted me to plan our next adventure, a romantic canoe ride through arching palms. Juniper Springs was one of the most remote campgrounds we visited, nestled deep in the wild interior scrubland of PAllen National Forest, where ancient sand dunes bestowed upon the park both an endangered ecosystem and a rare respite from the flat, featureless landscape we've come to expect from Florida. I didn't know this at the time, but it was also one of the few places in the state where bears were common. And also one of its lakes was known for its concentration of large and sometimes murderous alligators. Look it up. I guess it was a bad place to take someone who screamed at the sight of a mere lizard. Our paddle started out nicely enough. With the crystal clear spring water only a few inches deep, we had to wade in before jumping into our moving canoes. Postcard perfect sable palm trees leaned over our love boat, while the slow-moving turquoise water carried us away gently to scenic vistas of marshmallow clouds through a canopy of live oaks and palms. Look at that scrub jay, I explained, pointing to the left so that she wouldn't notice the water snake basking on a branch overhead. It might have been a venomous water moccasin, when you think of it. Scrub jays are intended to Florida's scrub ecosystems and are endangered because of encroaching human habitation. I lectured expertly and maybe a little too excited, with my eye on a baby alligator basking on a log near my paddle. Soon the weather began to turn sour. The fluffy clouds now built themselves up into flashing towers, billowing out in an anvil when they could climb no higher and hold no more rain. The water darkened along with the sky and began to rise up to meet the tree limbs, which turned our peaceful paddle into a dangerous gauntlet. We turned a curve and swerved to avoid a palm tree, which we instead struck sideways with a canoe, throwing us overboard into the unrelenting currents of the deep.
Ooh.
I stood up and waded into waist-high water. My formerly meek and timid girlfriend crawled out of the mud like a swamp monster and said 2 words. I'm steering. I smartly agreed and tried to ignore the juvenile alligators watching from the opposite bank. At long last, we arrived at the end of the spring run, where sunburned locals caught fish to a soundtrack of thunder and country music. In the same waters that we just peed ourselves in fright, oblivious fishermen dumped the scraps of their catch while patient alligators watched. Back at our campsite, Jennifer napped in the tent while I got the fire started. As if I didn't already feel sheepish enough, my parents had taken it upon themselves to pay us a visit. After going 2 hours out of their way, they'd insist, we were just in the neighborhood. I begged my dad to keep it down so that Jennifer wouldn't know that she had other options. About an hour later, she awoke to find me circling a pile of logs, scratching my head and puffing at the withering flame like a Neanderthal. Some nearby campers took pity on us and lit the fire, giving me some excellent pointers, which I promptly forgot. The fire finally lit. Jennifer started to relax with her soda while I retreated to the camp showers to clean off the layers of ash, mud, grime, and shame It had accumulated throughout the day. I returned to find her nowhere in sight, eventually spotting her cowering in the car, trying to speak between sobs. "What happened?" I asked. "Bear," she offered. "What? What?" I tried to hide my jealousy. "Bear took her buns. Took her hot dog buns." Raccoons snickered in the bushes, probably flattered to be mistaken for bears. The same campers who helped me light the campfire had also seen the raccoons, but they weren't intimidated. The burlier of the two assured us that, "Oh, I wouldn't let no raccoon take my buns. I'd fight that raccoon for my buns. I got a little bear's baby boss." Clearly, those raccoons saw us for what we were, two city mice out of their element. She's since become accustomed to following me blindly around the woods, but when Jennifer actually decided to marry me, she saw to it that the only critters we saw on our honeymoon would be the costumed ones at Disney World. We've since decided that retiree life was just too exciting for our liking, but after seeing relatives one day, we decided to take our little sedan on a scenic route. We then took a wrong turn, followed by another wrong turn, and then a construction detour that, thanks to my cell phone's GPS feature, put us on a remote back road that abruptly turned to dirt. Only then did I realize that we had lost our cellular signal. Jennifer wept and sputtered something about banjo music while the sun set. And then the baby woke up. Just as my wife was undoubtedly trying to remember the name of that divorce attorney that she saw on TV, we came to a paved road on the right and a telephone pole with a sign that read, "Get to your duck meat here." Scrolled out in red and barely legible paint. I stared right toward it. It wasn't the duck meat that scared me, but rather the sign itself. Out here in the middle of the woods, at dusk, it looked more like a threat than an advertisement, like a devious trap set by Elmer Fudd for Bugs Bunny. Here in Florida, you're really never all that far from the next interstate, or as seemed to be the case here, insane asylum. After a few minutes, I recognized the road, and 5 minutes later, we pulled up into our own driveway. It's hard to get lost in Florida.